The grand chamber of the Galactic Council filled with representatives from 40 different species. Holographic displays lit up the curved walls showing star maps and data streams. At the center of attention was a single image that had caused this emergency meeting. An old human ship drifted through space in the Outer Rim territories, damaged and silent. Commander Zixthor stood at the main podium. His tall frame and scaled skin marked him as a member of the Krellian Empire, one of the oldest civilizations in the known galaxy. He gestured at the image with one of his forearms, his voice carrying contempt. "This primitive vessel poses no threat," Zixthor said. "Our sensors indicate it is over 300 years old. Human technology from that era was barely capable of reaching their own moon, let alone traveling between stars." The other council members murmured in agreement. Ambassador Vrika from the Ascendancy leaned forward in her seat. Her crystalline body reflected the light from the displays as she spoke. "Why have we gathered for this? Derelict ships drift through space constantly. We should simply destroy it and move on. It serves no purpose and could become a navigation hazard." The holographic image rotated slowly, showing the ship from all angles. It was roughly rectangular in shape, about 400 meters long. The hull was dark gray, covered in scorch marks and small impact craters. Several sections showed signs of repair work done long ago. Large numbers and letters were painted on the side. USS Valor. Zixthor pulled up more data on the screens. "According to our records, this class of ship was used by humans during their early expansion period. They called them exploration vessels, though our intelligence suggests they had military capabilities. Primitive by our standards, of course." A younger council member, barely 50 years into his position, raised a tentacle to speak. His species, the Voth, prided themselves on their historical knowledge. "Should we not preserve it? Human history from that period is poorly documented. This could have cultural value." Zixthor's laugh echoed through the chamber. "Cultural value, look at it. The design is crude. No energy shields are visible. The propulsion system appears to be based on fusion reactions. Fusion. My people abandoned such technology 3,000 years ago. The humans themselves have moved far beyond this. They would probably be embarrassed to claim it." The council voted quickly. 37 members approved immediate destruction. Only 3 voted to preserve the vessel. The decision was final. Zixthor assigned a small fleet to handle the task. 3 destroyers and 1 command cruiser. More than enough firepower to reduce the old ship to atoms. Far from the council chambers, the USS Valor continued its lonely drift through the void. The ship had been traveling for centuries, covering distances that would have been impossible for humanity at the time of its launch. Inside the armored hull, in a chamber deep within the ship's core, rows of cryopods lined the walls. 40 pods in total, each containing a human in suspended animation. The ship's external sensors detected the approaching alien fleet long before they arrived. Ancient computers designed to operate for centuries without maintenance processed the information. The detection triggered a sequence of events programmed 300 years earlier by engineers who had feared this exact situation. Power began flowing to dormant systems. Backup reactors, cold for 3 centuries, started warming up. The process was slow and methodical. The ship's artificial intelligence, a simple program compared to modern standards, followed its instructions precisely. It had been designed for one purpose: to keep the ship and its crew safe until they reached their destination or encountered potential threats. The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at a safe distance from the derelict. Fleet Commander Thelvan reviewed the scan data from his command cruiser. Everything matched what the Council had reported. No power signatures, no active systems, no life signs, just an old piece of metal drifting through space. "Move into position," Thelvan ordered. "Standard demolition formation. I want this done quickly." The 3 destroyers spread out, forming a triangle around the human ship. Each vessel was sleek and powerful, equipped with the latest weapons technology. Their hulls gleamed with the characteristic blue-white sheen of military-grade energy shields. Compared to them, the USS Valor looked like something from a museum. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, Commander Peltak prepared his weapons. He had served in the fleet for 20 years and had overseen the destruction of hundreds of derelict vessels. This one would be no different. "Charging main cannons," his tactical officer reported. "Ready to fire on your command." Peltak watched the targeting display. The old human ship sat there, helpless and dark. He felt a moment of pity. Once this vessel had carried people with dreams and hopes. They had ventured into the unknown, probably never suspecting their ship would end up as target practice for aliens they never met. "Fire when ready," Peltak said. As his tactical officer's hand moved toward the firing control, something changed. The human ship's exterior lights suddenly activated. Red and white lights blinked along its hull in a pattern that seemed almost alive. Then the main running lights blazed on, flooding the area with harsh white light. "What is this?" Thelvan demanded from his command cruiser. "Did we trigger some automatic system?" Before anyone could answer, the USS Valor's communications array extended from its hull. The movement was smooth and deliberate, not the jerky motion of a malfunctioning system. A transmission began broadcasting on multiple frequencies in multiple languages. The translation came through clearly on every alien ship. Hostile actions detected. Defensive protocols engaged. Stand down immediately. This is your only warning. Silence filled the command channels. The alien crews stared at their displays in confusion. A 300-year-old ship was threatening them. The audacity of it would have been funny if it wasn't so bizarre. Thelvan recovered first. His mandibles clicked together in what his species considered laughter. "It's just an automated system. Some ancient program responding to our weapons charging." "Ignore it. Peltak, fire your warning shot." "Let's get this over with." The lead destroyer's main cannon discharged. A bolt of concentrated energy, bright enough to leave afterimages, streaked across the void. It crossed the distance in less than a second and struck the USS Valor's forward section. The shot should have carved through the unshielded hull like a knife through soft flesh. Instead, it splashed against an invisible barrier. Energy rippled outward from the impact point, forming a brief dome of light around the human ship. The shields held without even flickering. "Impossible," Peltak whispered. There were no active shields. Our sensors showed nothing. The USS Valor rotated on its axis. The movement was faster than any ship that size should be capable of moving. It turned to face the lead destroyer directly. Along its dorsal hull, panels slid open. Ancient weapons batteries extended into the void. Their barrels aimed with perfect precision. Deep inside the ship in the cryo chamber, frost began forming on the outside of the pods as the warming cycle initiated. Captain Jake Morrison, suspended in time for 3 centuries, had no idea that his ship was about to go to war. The automated systems were doing exactly what they had been programmed to do: protect the crew at all costs. A single projectile launched from the USS Valor's main railgun. There was no flash of energy, no visible beam, just a tungsten rod weighing several tons accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. It covered the distance to the lead destroyer in the time it takes a human heart to beat once. The ancient weapon punched through the destroyer's shields as if they were made of paper. The round entered through the bow, traveled the entire length of the ship and exited through the stern. The destroyer's power core, breached by the impact, exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The remaining alien ships scattered in panic, their commanders suddenly realizing they had made a terrible mistake. The explosion lit up the void like a miniature star. Debris from the destroyed destroyer tumbled through space, glowing red from the heat. Fleet Commander Thelvan stared at his display screen, unable to process what had just happened. One moment his lead destroyer had been firing a warning shot. The next moment it was gone. "All ships evasive maneuvers," Thelvan shouted into his communicator. "Get away from that thing." The 2 remaining destroyers broke formation, their engines flaring bright as they accelerated in opposite directions. The command cruiser followed, putting distance between itself and the human vessel. On every bridge, crew members worked frantically at their stations, trying to understand what had killed their companionship so quickly. "Commander, I'm analyzing the weapon signature," the tactical officer on Thelvan's cruiser reported. Her voice shook slightly. It wasn't an energy weapon. It was a physical projectile moving at extreme velocity. "Our shields aren't designed to stop kinetic weapons at that speed." Thelvan felt cold despite his species' warm blood. The Galactic Council had abandoned kinetic weapons millennia ago. Energy shields could stop almost any energy-based attack, making ship-to-ship combat a matter of who had stronger shields and more powerful energy cannons. But a solid object moving fast enough could bypass shields entirely. The physics were simple and brutal. "How did they accelerate it to that speed?" Thelvan asked. "Unknown, Commander. The technology appears to be electromagnetic in nature. A railgun, according to the old human databases. But the power requirements should be enormous. That ship showed no active power signatures before it fired." On the bridge of the second destroyer, Commander Creven studied the human ship carefully. It had stopped rotating and now held position. Its weapons batteries still extended. The ship's lights pulsed in what might be a pattern. Creven had fought in 3 wars and survived dozens of battles. His instincts told him this was no simple automated defense system. "Scan that ship again," Creven ordered. "Full spectrum. I want to know everything about it." The sensor officer worked his console. Data flowed across multiple screens. "Commander, I'm reading massive power generation now. Multiple fusion reactors coming online. The hull is heating up in several sections. And Commander, I'm detecting life signs." "Life signs? How many?" "Difficult to say. The hull is heavily shielded. But at least 30, possibly more. They're waking up." Inside the USS Valor, Captain Jake Morrison felt consciousness returning slowly. His body ached in ways he had never experienced before. Every muscle felt weak and unresponsive. His mouth was dry and his eyes refused to focus properly. The cryopod's lid had opened and warm air flowed over his cold skin. A voice spoke near his ear. "Captain Morrison, can you hear me? Take slow breaths. Don't try to move yet." Morrison recognized the voice. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, his executive officer. He managed to turn his head slightly and saw her face. She looked as rough as he felt, her skin pale and her eyes bloodshot. "Kate," Morrison croaked. "What happened?" "How long?" "Guardian woke us up, sir. The ship's under attack. We've already returned fire." That got Morrison's attention. He forced himself to sit up, ignoring his body's protests. The cryo chamber was filled with activity. Other crew members were emerging from their pods, helping each other stand. Medical staff moved between the pods, checking vital signs and administering stimulants. "Under attack? By who?" "Unknown aliens, sir. Guardian will brief us on the bridge." "Can you walk?" Morrison swung his legs out of the pod and stood on shaky legs. Sullivan steadied him with a hand on his arm. Together they made their way through the ship's corridors. The lights were dim and the air smelled stale. How long had they been asleep? The bridge was smaller than modern military vessels, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. 10 stations in a compact space, each with multiple displays and manual controls. The ship's artificial intelligence guardian spoke through overhead speakers. "Captain Morrison, welcome back. I apologize for the abrupt awakening, but defensive protocols required immediate action." Morrison dropped into the captain's chair and strapped himself in. His fingers moved automatically across the controls, bringing up tactical displays. What he saw made his blood run cold despite his foggy mind. "Guardian, how long have we been in cryo?" 317 years, Captain." The bridge fell silent. Morrison had expected months, maybe a few years if something had gone wrong with the mission. But over 3 centuries? Everyone they had known was dead. Earth had changed beyond recognition. They were relics from another age. "Status report," Morrison said, forcing himself to focus on the immediate situation. Guardian's synthetic voice remained calm. 3 alien vessels approached with hostile intent. They charged weapons and fired on us. I activated shields and returned fire with the forward railgun battery. 1 hostile vessel was destroyed. The remaining vessels have withdrawn to a distance of 50,000 kilometers. Lieutenant Ben Hayes, the tactical officer, pulled himself into his station. His hands flew across the controls as he assessed their weapon status. "Captain, main railgun is operational. Point defense systems are online. Nuclear arsenal is ready. Our missile tubes are functional. Most of our electronic warfare suite is still booting up." "What about the ship's condition?" Hayes checked another display. "Hull integrity is at 97%. Shields are holding at full strength. Reactors are warming up to full power. We took no damage from their attack." Kate Sullivan had taken her position at the communication station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessels. Audio only. They're requesting we stand down and identify ourselves." Morrison took a deep breath. This was first contact, 300 years late. He had no idea what the political situation was like now, whether humanity was at war or peace with alien species. Guardian had done what it was programmed to do, protect the ship and crew. But now he needed to take control before the situation escalated further. "Open a channel," Morrison ordered. "Channel open." "Sir?" "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Valor, United Earth Space Force. We are a military vessel on a long-term mission. Your ships fired on us without warning. We responded in self-defense. Stand down your weapons and we can talk about this." A long pause followed. Then a voice responded, the translation software rendering it in English with a slight metallic tone. Captain Morrison, this is Fleet Commander Thelvan. Your vessel was identified as a derelict. We had orders to destroy it. We were not informed it was occupied or active. This appears to be a terrible misunderstanding. Morrison glanced at Sullivan, who shrugged. The alien sounded genuinely confused. Commander Thelvan, we've been in suspended animation for over 3 centuries. Our ship's automated systems detected your weapons charging and responded according to defensive protocols. I have no desire for further conflict, but I need information. What year is it? What's happened to Earth? Another pause. When Thelvan spoke again, his tone had changed. Less hostile, more cautious. Captain, the current year by your calendar would be 2387. Earth is a major member of the Galactic Council. Humanity controls dozens of star systems. Your species is well known and respected. But there are no records of your ship or your mission in any database we have access to. Morrison absorbed this information. Humanity had succeeded. They had not only survived but thrived. The mission he and his crew had embarked on was probably forgotten, buried in historical archives or classified files that nobody looked at anymore. Our mission was classified, Commander. I'm not surprised you have no records. Right now I need to know where the nearest human outpost is. We need to make contact with Earth authorities. The nearest human colony is 2 days' travel from here at standard speeds. But Captain, I must inform you that the Galactic Council will want to investigate this incident. A council ship was destroyed. There will be consequences. Morrison felt anger rising in his chest. Consequences? Your ship fired first, Commander. We defended ourselves. That's not a crime under any law I'm aware of. You don't understand. Your ship, your weapons, they shouldn't exist. Energy shields are supposed to protect against all weapons. But your kinetic cannon went through our shields like they weren't there. The Council will view this as a dangerous technology. Ben Hayes turned in his seat to face Morrison. Captain, I'm picking up more contacts. Long-range sensors show at least a dozen ships heading our way. They'll be here in 6 hours. Morrison closed his eyes briefly. They had been awake for less than an hour, and already they were facing a potential battle with an unknown number of alien warships. The USS Valor had been designed for exactly this kind of situation, but Morrison had hoped humanity's future would be peaceful enough that ships like his were no longer needed. Commander Thelvan, are those ships coming to destroy us? I don't know, Captain. I didn't call them. The Council must have dispatched them when they received word of the battle. I would recommend you surrender your vessel for inspection. It would be the safest course of action. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted, barely recovered from 3 centuries of frozen sleep. But they were alert and ready. They trusted him to make the right decision. The USS Valor had been built during a time when humanity feared extinction from hostile aliens. Every system, every weapon, every tactical doctrine had been designed to fight a. The crew of the USS Valor gathered in the mess hall after the first watch rotation. 40 people, all trying to process the fact that 300 years had passed while they slept. Captain Jake Morrison sat at one of the tables, drinking coffee that tasted strange after centuries in storage. Around him, crew members talked quietly, their voices filled with confusion and loss. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan sat down across from Morrison with her own cup of coffee. Her hands shook slightly as she held the cup. The medical team says everyone's recovering well from cryo. No major complications. A few people have some muscle weakness, but that should pass in a few days. Morrison nodded. Good. We're going to need everyone at full strength soon. What about the ship's systems? Ben says we're at about 70% operational capacity. The main weapons are all online. Life support is functioning perfectly. The faster-than-light drive needs another 12 hours to fully charge. Guardian kept the ship in remarkable condition, considering how long we've been out here. Guardian saved our lives, Morrison said. If those alien ships had caught us completely dormant, we'd be scattered atoms right now. Kate took a sip of her coffee and made a face. This tastes terrible, better than being dead. They sat in silence for a moment. Around them, other crew members were having similar conversations. Everyone was dealing with the reality of their situation in different ways. Some cried, some laughed, some just sat quietly, staring at nothing. Jake, Kate said softly, using his first name instead of his rank. What happened to everyone we knew? Our families? Morrison had been avoiding that thought. His parents had been in their 60s when he left Earth. His sister had 2 young children. All of them were gone now, dead for centuries. Everyone he had ever known or loved had lived their entire lives and died while he slept in a frozen pod. They're gone, Kate. Everyone. We have to accept that and move forward. How do we move forward? We're soldiers from a war that nobody remembers. The mission we were sent on is probably irrelevant now. What's our purpose? Before Morrison could answer, Ben Hayes approached their table. The tactical officer looked grim. Captain, Guardian has been analyzing the data from those alien ships. You need to see this. They followed Ben to the bridge. The displays showed detailed scans of the 3 alien vessels they had encountered. Ben pointed to various sections of the data as he explained. These ships use energy shields exclusively. No physical armor to speak of. Their hulls are actually pretty thin. They rely completely on their shields to protect them. Their weapons are all energy-based too. Plasma cannons, particle beams, stuff like that. Nothing kinetic. Morrison studied the information. So our railguns went through their shields because they're not designed to stop solid objects? Exactly. It's like they forgot that kinetic weapons exist, or maybe they never really developed them in the first place. Energy shields made kinetic weapons obsolete for them. But for us, kinetic weapons are perfect. We can punch through their defenses like they're not even there. Kate leaned closer to the display. This seems too convenient. Why would the entire galaxy abandon kinetic weapons? Ben pulled up more data. Guardian accessed some open databases while we've been talking with the aliens. It looks like galactic warfare evolved differently than human warfare. When species developed energy shields, they focused on building better shields and better energy weapons. It became an arms race of shield strength versus weapon power. Physical projectiles were considered primitive and ineffective. Until they met us. Morrison said quietly. Until they met us. Ben agreed, Captain. The USS Valor wasn't just designed to explore. It was designed to fight enemies with better technology than us. Everything about this ship makes sense now. Heavy armor in case shields fail. Redundant systems. Kinetic weapons that don't rely on exotic physics. We're a submarine in an ocean of ships that only know how to fight surface battles. Morrison walked to the captain's chair and sat down. He had known the Valor was a warship, but the full implications were only now becoming clear. 300 years ago, humanity had been afraid of hostile aliens. They had built ships specifically designed to fight enemies who might have superior technology. The Valor was meant to be underestimated and to hit harder than anyone expected. Guardian, Morrison called out. What was our original mission? The artificial intelligence responded immediately. Captain Morrison, your mission was classified at the highest level. You were to travel to the Outer Rim and establish a hidden military outpost. The outpost was to serve as a fallback position in case Earth was conquered or destroyed. You were carrying enough supplies and equipment to sustain a population of 500 people for 50 years. But we never made it to the destination. Correct. Approximately 20 years into the journey, the ship encountered a spatial anomaly. The navigation system was damaged. I placed the crew in cryosleep and continued toward the mission coordinates using backup systems. However, the damage was more severe than initially assessed. The journey took significantly longer than planned. Kate spoke up. Guardian, why didn't you wake us when we were overdue? My programming prioritized crew survival above mission completion. Waking you without reaching the destination or encountering a viable planet would have resulted in eventual death from resource depletion. I calculated that remaining in cryosleep gave you the best chance of survival. Morrison felt a grudging respect for the AI's logic. Guardian had kept them alive for 3 centuries, maintaining the ship and waiting for the right moment to wake them. That moment had come when alien ships threatened to destroy the Valor. Show me the tactical situation, Morrison ordered. The main display changed to show their current position. The 3 remaining alien ships from the first encounter held position at a safe distance. Further out, a cluster of contacts approached. Ben had been right. 12 ships moving in formation. Guardian analysis of the incoming fleet. The approaching vessels are military warships of various classes. 3 battlecruisers, 6 destroyers, 3 support vessels. They are heavily armed. Based on available data, they collectively possess approximately 100 times the firepower of the initial ships that engaged us. The bridge crew exchanged worried looks. Morrison kept his expression neutral, but his mind raced. They couldn't fight that many ships even with their advantages. The Valor was tough, but it wasn't invincible. Time until they arrive? 5 hours 42 minutes at current speed. Morrison made a decision. Set course for the nearest human colony. Best possible speed. We're not waiting here to be surrounded. Captain, Kate said carefully, if we run, they'll chase us. And we might look guilty of something. If we stay, we're trapped. I'd rather be moving and have options. Ben, I want a full inventory of our weapons and ammunition. Kate, keep trying to establish contact with human authorities. Anyone, anywhere. We need backup. The crew moved to follow his orders. The USS Valor's engines flared to life, pushing the ship forward. Behind them, the alien fleet adjusted course to follow. For the next several hours, the bridge was a flurry of activity. Ben Hayes and his team prepared every weapon system the ship had. Kate Sullivan sent messages on every frequency, hoping to reach a human ship or colony. Other crew members worked throughout the vessel, bringing more systems online and preparing for potential combat. Morrison stood near the main view screen, watching the alien fleet follow them. The ships maintained their distance but didn't fall behind. They were faster than the Valor, but they seemed content to track rather than engage. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission, Kate announced. It's coming from the lead battlecruiser in the fleet behind us. Audio and video. Put it on screen. The view screen changed to show an alien unlike any they had seen before. It had a roughly humanoid shape but stood at least 8 feet tall. Its skin was a deep red color, and it had 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows across its face. When it spoke, the translation software rendered its words in a deep, resonating voice. Captain Morrison of the USS Valor. I am Admiral Krethar of the Krellian Empire. Your ship has destroyed a council vessel and refused to surrender for inspection. You are now attempting to flee. These actions mark you as hostile. I am authorized to use whatever force necessary to stop you. Morrison kept his voice steady. Admiral, we acted in self-defense. Your ships fired on us first. We're heading toward human space to make contact with our own authorities.
We're not fleeing.
We're going home. Your ship is a threat to galactic security. The weapons you possess should not exist. The Galactic Council has determined that your vessel must be studied and potentially decommissioned. If you do not stop and allow us to board, we will open fire. You can try, Admiral, but you saw what happened to the first ship that fired on us. Are you willing to lose more ships? Krethar's 6 eyes narrowed. Your primitive vessel cannot stand against a fleet of this size. I am giving you one final chance. Stop your ship and surrender or be destroyed. They're exhausted, grieving for their lost lives and facing impossible odds. But they were also trained military personnel who had volunteered for a dangerous mission 300 years ago. They knew the risks then, and they knew the risks now. Admiral Krethar, I want you to understand something. This ship was built by people who... The bridge of the USS Valor shook as the first wave of enemy fire struck their shields. Energy beams and plasma bolts converged on the ship from multiple directions. The shields flared bright, turning the space around the Valor into a dome of crackling energy. Warning lights flashed across every console. Shields holding at 85%, Ben Hayes called out. They're concentrating fire on our aft section. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his chair. Evasive pattern Delta. Don't let them focus on one spot. Return fire all forward batteries. The Valor twisted and rolled, its maneuvering thrusters firing in precise bursts. The ship was old but surprisingly agile for its size. The human engineers who had built it understood that speed and maneuverability could mean the difference between life and death in combat. The forward railguns spoke in sequence. 3 tungsten rounds launched in rapid succession, each one aimed at a different target. The first round struck a destroyer, punching through its shields and tearing a massive hole through its midsection. The ship's lights flickered and died as it tumbled out of formation. The second round missed as its target dodged at the last moment. The third round clipped a battlecruiser's port side, ripping away armor plating and exposing internal compartments to space. 2 hits, 1 kill, Ben reported. Reloading railguns. 30 seconds to next volley. Kate Sullivan monitored the tactical display. Captain, they're spreading out, trying to surround us. Morrison had expected that. A single ship couldn't defend against attacks from all directions simultaneously. The alien fleet was using standard tactics, and they would work eventually. The Valor couldn't win this fight through firepower alone. Guardian launch countermeasures. Give them something else to shoot at. Small pods ejected from the Valor's hull, spreading out in a cloud around the ship. Each pod emitted electronic signals designed to confuse sensors and create false targets. Some contained reflective chaff that scattered enemy sensor beams. Others were simple decoys that mimicked the Valor's energy signature. The alien fleet's targeting systems struggled to sort through the noise. Several ships fired at false targets, their weapons wasting energy on empty space or small pods. But there were too many enemy ships. They adapted quickly, using multiple sensor types to distinguish the real target from the decoys. Another volley of enemy fire hammered the Valor's shields. This time the damage was more severe. The shields flickered and dropped to 60% strength. "We can't keep taking hits like this," Kate said. Morrison knew she was right. The Valor had been designed for hit-and-run tactics, not prolonged battles against superior numbers. They needed to change the dynamic of the fight. "Ben, prepare nuclear missiles. I want a full spread wide dispersal pattern. Set them for proximity detonation." Ben hesitated for just a moment. Nuclear weapons were considered primitive by galactic standards, but primitive didn't mean ineffective. "Yes, sir." "Programming firing solution now." The Valor's missile tubes opened. 20 missiles launched simultaneously, streaking away from the ship in different directions. The alien fleet's point defense systems tried to intercept them, destroying several missiles before they reached their targets. But 13 missiles made it through. The space around the alien fleet erupted in brilliant flashes of nuclear fire. The explosions themselves did little damage to ships protected by energy shields, but the electromagnetic pulses from the detonations wreaked havoc on the fleet's electronic systems. Sensors went offline, communications channels filled with static. Targeting computers reset and had to recalibrate. In the confusion, Morrison made his move. "Full power to engines. Get us out of here." The Valor accelerated hard, pushing past the disorganized alien fleet. The crew was pressed back into their seats by the force. The ship's structure groaned under the strain, but it held together. 300 years of drift through space hadn't weakened the solid construction. Several alien ships recovered quickly enough to fire as the Valor passed. Energy beams scored hits on the ship's hull where the shields were weakest. Armor plating melted and boiled away, but the thick layers of protection did their job. The damage was superficial. "We're through the formation," Kate reported. "They're turning to pursue." Morrison allowed himself a brief smile. Time to show them another trick. "Ben, deploy the mines." Small spheres dropped from the Valor's aft section, floating in the path of the pursuing alien ships. They looked harmless, just small metal balls drifting in space. The alien fleet's sensors detected them but classified them as debris or decoys. The lead battlecruiser plowed straight through the cloud of mines. The mines activated when ships came within range. They weren't nuclear. They were something simpler and more insidious. Each mine was essentially a shaped charge filled with metal fragments. When they exploded, they sent thousands of high-velocity shrapnel pieces in all directions. The battlecruiser's shields could stop energy weapons all day, but they weren't designed to stop thousands of physical objects simultaneously. The shrapnel tore through the shields like they weren't there, peppering the ship's hull. Small holes appeared across the battlecruiser's surface. Atmosphere vented into space. Several weapon emplacements were destroyed. The rest of the alien fleet scattered, frantically trying to avoid the minefield. 2 destroyers weren't fast enough. They took similar damage, their hulls shredded by the ancient weapons. Admiral Krethar watched from his command ship as his fleet struggled to deal with the human vessel. He had lost 3 ships completely and 4 more were damaged. The primitive human ship should have been destroyed 10 times over by now. Instead, it was escaping and his fleet looked like fools. "All ships maintain pursuit," Krethar ordered. "But keep your distance. Don't let them bait you into close range." His tactical officer looked worried. "Admiral, perhaps we should request reinforcements. This ship is more dangerous than anticipated." "No, I will not admit to the Council that I need help to stop one ancient vessel. We will destroy it." But even as he spoke, Krethar felt doubt creeping in. The human captain was clever and resourceful. Every time the fleet adapted to one tactic, the humans used another. It was like fighting an enemy that had studied warfare for centuries and learned every possible trick. On the Valor's bridge, Morrison studied the tactical display. They had gained some distance from the pursuing fleet, but not enough. The alien ships were faster and would eventually catch up. "Kate, any luck reaching human authorities?" "Still trying, sir. I'm broadcasting on all channels, but we're pretty far from any major human settlements. It might take time for someone to respond. We might not have time." Morrison looked at the damage report scrolling across his screen. The shields were recharging slowly, but they had taken significant damage to the hull in several sections. One more engagement like the last one and they might not survive. Captain, Guardian spoke up. I have been monitoring the alien communications. They are discussing your tactical abilities with considerable confusion. They appear to believe you are using advanced strategies that they have never encountered before. Morrison almost laughed. We're using basic military tactics that any navy on Earth would recognize. What have these aliens been doing for the last few thousand years? Based on available data, galactic warfare has become highly formalized. Ships line up and shoot at each other until one side's shields fail. There is very little tactical maneuvering or deception. Your use of mines, countermeasures, and nuclear pulse weapons is completely outside their normal experience. That explained a lot. The galaxy had developed a rigid way of fighting that relied entirely on technology. They had forgotten the importance of strategy and tactics. The Valor was giving them a brutal lesson in the art of war. Ben, how are we doing on ammunition? We've used about 40% of our railgun rounds. Nuclear missiles are down to 30%. Mines are almost depleted. We've got plenty of point defense ammunition and conventional missiles, but those won't be as effective against shields. Morrison nodded. They couldn't keep fighting indefinitely. Eventually, they would run out of the weapons that gave them an advantage. Captain, incoming transmission, Kate said. It's not from the fleet. It's coming from ahead of us. I put it on screen. The view screen showed a human face. A woman, probably in her 40s with short brown hair and a military uniform Morrison didn't recognize. She looked professional and calm. USS Valor, this is Commander Linda Harper of the Earth Defense Ship Constellation. We received your distress calls. What's your situation? Morrison felt relief wash over him. Finally, contact with modern humanity. Commander Harper, this is Captain Jake Morrison. We're being pursued by a Krellian fleet, 12 ships heavily armed. We've defended ourselves, but we're running low on options. Harper's expression changed to surprise. Captain Morrison? Jake Morrison from the historical files. You're supposed to be lost 300 years ago. Long story, Commander. Right now we need help. Can you assist? Harper looked off screen, apparently consulting with someone. When she looked back, her expression was determined. Captain, we're 4 hours away at maximum speed. Can you hold out that long? Morrison glanced at Ben, who nodded slightly. We'll hold out, Commander. But these aliens seem pretty determined to destroy us. Don't let them. Your ship is a piece of history, and so are you and your crew. We're coming as fast as we can. Try. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other across the circular room. Holographic displays showed footage of the battle between the USS Valor and the Krellian fleet. The images were damning. An ancient human ship, supposedly a harmless derelict, had destroyed or damaged 7 modern warships. Ambassador Vrika stood at her podium, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated light. This is exactly what I warned about. Human military technology is a threat to galactic peace. That ship should have been destroyed immediately. Commander Zixthor, who had first identified the Valor as harmless, remained silent. His earlier assessment had been catastrophically wrong, and everyone in the chamber knew it. His career in the council was probably over. A representative from the Voth species raised several tentacles for attention. We must understand how this happened. How did a 300-year-old ship defeat modern vessels? Our entire understanding of military technology is being questioned. On the main display, the footage played again. The Valor's railgun firing, the tungsten round punching through shields, the nuclear missiles creating electromagnetic chaos, the mines shredding hull armor. Every weapon system the ancient ship used had been considered obsolete for millennia, yet they had proven devastatingly effective. A senior council member, an elderly being from a species that had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, spoke in a quiet voice that somehow carried through the noise. Perhaps we have become complacent. We developed energy shields and assumed they made us invulnerable. We forgot that there are other ways to fight. The chamber fell silent. Nobody wanted to admit it, but the elder was right. Galactic warfare had become ritualized and predictable. Ships with better shields and stronger energy weapons won battles. There was no need for strategy or creative thinking. The Valor had reminded them that war was more than just technology. What do we do now? Someone asked. Before anyone could answer, a new holographic display activated. It showed the USS Valor flying through space, the Krellian fleet maintaining a cautious distance behind it. and approaching from the opposite direction, a formation of human warships. The humans are responding, Vrika said. This situation could escalate into a major incident. Far from the council chambers, Captain Jake Morrison watched the approaching human ships on his view screen. There were 5 vessels in total, all of them sleek and modern compared to the Valor. They looked fast and powerful, their hulls covered in advanced armor and bristling with weapons he didn't recognize. "Captain, the lead ship is hailing us," Kate Sullivan reported. "Commander Harper again." "Put her on screen." Linda Harper appeared, and this time she was smiling. "Captain Morrison, nice to see you're still in one piece. We're in position to intercept the Krellian fleet. What are your orders?" Morrison was surprised. "My orders? Commander, you're in charge here. We're 300 years out of date." Harper shook her head. "Captain, you're the senior officer present, and this is your situation. We're here to support you. What do you need?" It took Morrison a moment to process that. Modern Earth was deferring to him, a relic from the past. But he appreciated the trust. "I need you to convince the Krellians to stand down without firing a shot. We've done enough damage for one day." "Understood. We'll handle it." Harper's transmission ended. The human fleet positioned itself between the Valor and the pursuing Krellian ships. Admiral Krethar, already frustrated by his inability to stop the ancient human vessel, now faced modern human warships. His tactical officer provided analysis. "Admiral, those ships are significantly more advanced than the Valor. Our intelligence suggests they're equipped with hybrid weapon systems, both energy and kinetic weapons. Their shields are also hybrid design." Krethar felt his confidence draining away. If the ancient ship had been that difficult to defeat, what chance did he have against modern human vessels? "Open a channel to the human commander." Linda Harper's face appeared on his screen. She looked professional and utterly calm. "Admiral Krethar, I'm Commander Harper of the Earth Defense Force. I'm here to escort the USS Valor safely to human space. I would appreciate it if you would withdraw your fleet." "That ship is a threat to galactic security," Krethar said. "It has destroyed Council vessels. It must be investigated. That ship defended itself after your forces fired first. It's a human vessel with a human crew, and it's under my protection now. If you want to investigate anything, you can file a formal request with Earth authorities. But you're not touching that ship or its crew." Krethar considered his options. He had lost 7 ships already. If he attacked now, he would be fighting against 6 human vessels, including the problematic Valor. The battle would be costly, possibly catastrophic. And for what? To capture a ship that was already heading to Earth anyway? Very well, Commander. But the Council will demand answers. The Council can have all the answers it wants, through proper diplomatic channels. Now withdraw your fleet before this gets worse. Krethar gave the order. The Krellian ships turned and began moving away. The crisis was over, at least for now. On the Valor's bridge, the crew relaxed for the first time in hours. Kate Sullivan let out a long breath. "We made it," Morrison nodded. "Thanks to Commander Harper. Guardian, take us to the coordinates she's transmitting. Let's go home." The journey to Earth took 3 days. During that time, Morrison and his crew learned about the galaxy they had awakened to. Commander Harper sent over historical files and news reports, helping them understand how much had changed. Humanity had indeed thrived. There were human colonies on dozens of worlds. Earth had become a major power in the Galactic Council, respected for its diplomacy and its innovative approach to technology. Humans had been peaceful and cooperative, building strong relationships with many alien species. But there were also tensions. Some alien species viewed humanity with suspicion because of how quickly humans had advanced. Others were jealous of human success. The incident with the Valor had reminded everyone that humans were capable of great violence when threatened. When they finally approached Earth, Morrison stood on the bridge with tears in his eyes. The planet looked similar to how he remembered it, but the space around it had changed dramatically. Dozens of space stations orbited the world. Ships of all sizes moved between them. It was beautiful and overwhelming. "Valor, this is Earth Traffic Control. Welcome home, Captain Morrison. We've been waiting for you." They landed at a military spaceport, and Morrison led his crew down the ramp to meet modern humanity. A crowd had gathered, along with news cameras and government officials. Commander Harper was there, along with an older man in an admiral's uniform. The admiral stepped forward and saluted. Captain Morrison, I'm Admiral Paul Carter, Earth Defense Force. On behalf of humanity, welcome home. Your sacrifice and dedication have not been forgotten. Morrison returned the salute. Thank you, Admiral. It's good to be home, even if it's not quite the home we left. There will be time for adjustment. Right now, the Galactic Council wants to meet with you. They have questions about your ship and what happened. 2 days later, Morrison found himself standing before the Galactic Council. The USS Valor was in orbit above the Council's neutral space station, and Morrison had come alone to explain himself. The chamber was even more impressive than he had imagined, filled with representatives from species he had never heard of. Ambassador Vrika spoke first. Captain Morrison, your ship has caused significant damage and loss of life. The Council demands an explanation. Why does such a dangerous vessel exist? Morrison took a deep breath. He had prepared for this moment. My ship was built 300 years ago, during a time when humanity was new to space. We didn't know if we would encounter peaceful aliens or hostile ones. We hoped for peace but prepared for war. The USS Valor was designed to protect humanity in case we faced enemies with superior technology. By creating weapons that bypass our defenses, by creating weapons that were effective. We didn't design them to specifically counter your shields. We designed them based on fundamental physics. Kinetic weapons work because they always have. They're simple and reliable. Another council member spoke up. Your tactics were unlike anything we've seen. You used deception, misdirection, and what some would call cowardice. You ran from battle. Morrison felt anger rising but kept his voice level. I used sound military strategy. I protected my crew and my ship while accomplishing my objectives. In human military doctrine, that's called intelligence, not cowardice. We don't believe in pointless sacrifice or fighting fair when survival is at stake. The chamber murmured. Some species seemed offended. Others appeared thoughtful. The elderly council member who had spoken during the earlier session raised a hand for silence. Captain Morrison, I believe I understand what happened. Your species approached space warfare differently than we did. We focused on technology. You focused on strategy and tactics. Both approaches have value. Morrison nodded. Exactly. The Valor isn't more advanced than your ships. It's just different. We built it to fight smart, not to fight fair. Ambassador Vrika wasn't satisfied. And now that humanity is part of the galactic community, will you share these dangerous tactics with others? Will you build more ships like the Valor Admiral Carter, who had a company,